The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma. In February 2025, Georgia's export decreased by 7% year-on-year, totaling $431.5 million. For the January period, total exports amounted to $835 million, reflecting a 4% annual increase, driven by an 18% growth in January. As for imports, their volume in February stood at $1.1 billion, also marking a 7% year-on-year decline. However, total imports for January-February reached $2.7 billion at 19.5% increase, though over $500 million of this was attributed to the import of expensive paintings and sculptures. Without this, the real import volume was $2.2 billion. Further details on which goods imports and exports declined in February 2025 will be available on March 19th when Geostat publishes a detailed foreign trade report. The National Bank of Georgia kept the refinancing rate unchanged at 8% and expects inflation to rise in the second half of 2025. The central bank predicts that inflation in Georgia will temporarily exceed the target level of 3% in the second half of the year, but will remain around the 3% target for the year overall. The National Bank also noted that preliminary estimates of economic growth for January 2025 indicate an 11% increase, pointing to higher than expected economic activity. However, the bank anticipates that uncertainty in Georgia's economy will remain high overall. The Ministry of Finance published a report on Georgia's state debt as of February 2025. According to the document, the total debt amounted to $8.5 billion, an increase of $30 million compared to January. Year-on-year, January state debt decreased by $173 million compared to February 2024. Also, this reduction was primarily due to exchange rate effects. Foreign direct investment in Georgia totaled $1.3 billion in 2024, a 30% decrease from the revised 2023 figures. According to preliminary data published by Geostat, the main reason for this decline was a reduction in two key FDI components, equity capital and reinvestment. By sector, the highest FDI inflow was in the financial sector, $526 million, though this was $60 million less than the previous year. The manufacturing sector ranked second with $170 million, reflecting $130 million decline. The real estate sector was third with $155 million, showing $44 million increase. For individuals refinancing loans up to 200 million Georgian lari and transferring them from one bank to another, the maximum prepayment fee imposed by banks has been reduced from 2% to 0.5%. According to National Bank President Natia Turnava, lowering prepayment fees is an important step in protecting consumer rights. Georgia's Revenue Service has imposed a tax line on Georgian Manganese, the country's largest mining company. A written response from the company indicates that the amount in question is in the tens of millions of Georgian lari, which Georgian Manganese owes to the state budget. According to a study published by the European Business Association, political instability is the biggest challenge for businesses in Georgia. Out of nearly 200 European companies questioned, 77% cited political instability as the main barrier to business operations. The second most significant issue was a shortage of skilled labor, with 66% of business highlighting as the key challenge. The third major issue was the inefficiency of the judicial system, identified by 58% of the respondents.
This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Kvantilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. This negative political trajectory has also consequences on the economic situation as well as on the businesses trying to operate in Georgia. Paweł Hrczynski, ambassador of the EU to Georgia, said the European Union on Thursday published the 2024 EU Business Climate Report on Georgia, prepared by the European Business Association, EBA. According to the report, the main challenge for European businesses operating in Georgia is political instability, which has increased particularly in the past year. Regarding the study, EU Ambassador Paweł Hrczynski notes that the regression in the direction of reforms in the country is one of the leading factors hindering the development of businesses. Paweł Hrczynski also notes that the Georgian business climate is also negatively affected by the shortage of professional skills of the workforce, the economic impact of which is assessed in detail in the study. The EU has been a key economic partner for Georgia. However, as a result of the backsliding on a number of fundamental values upon which EU-Georgia relations are built, the EU has reduced much of our assistance. We are carrying on a substantial review of our ongoing programs. As a result of the actions taken by Georgian authorities, we will not be in a position to continue many of our excellent projects in Georgia. This negative political trajectory has also consequences on the economic situation as well as on the businesses trying to operate in Georgia. Many companies decided to enter the Georgian market anticipating that the country would move ever closer to the EU. Many of those companies now have legitimate questions and doubts about the future of Georgia, since the enlargement reform agenda is a key factor for structural, inclusive and sustainable transformation, EU ambassador stated. According to a study published by the European Business Association, despite continued economic growth in 2023 and early 2024, businesses in Georgia are facing a number of challenges, primarily driven by political uncertainty and workforce shortages, according to the newly released EU Business Climate Report, Georgia 2024. The survey, conducted among up to 200 companies with European links, highlights concerns that could hinder long-term economic stability. The report underscores three critical obstacles affecting businesses: political instability, the stalled EU accession process since June 2024, coupled with upcoming parliamentary elections, has impacted the business environment. 76.7% of companies cite instability as a major concern. Workforce deficit and skills gap. Nearly half of surveyed companies report skills shortages, leading to 5 to 40% underperformance, with an estimated annual GDP loss of 26%. Exchange rate fluctuations. Currency instability continues to challenge businesses in financial planning and investment decisions. Additionally, concerns over corruption and regulatory inefficiencies have been raised by businesses, particularly in relation to tax policies, public procurement, and the judicial system, further complicating the investment climate. One of the most important findings is the severe shortage of skilled labor, which has led to an annual income loss of 55.6 billion lari across businesses. High immigration and mismatched education programs further worsen this issue. Despite its cost, investing in internal workforce training has shown a positive return for businesses, providing that workforce development is a key driver of resilience. Impact of workforce shortage: GDP loss minus 26% annually, value-added shortfall minus 21.2 billion lari, unrealized business income minus 55.6 billion lari. Meanwhile, while the EU remains Georgia's largest trade partner, exports to the EU fell by 18% in 2023. These are Geostat figures, primarily due to high compliance costs for EU standards. The study says lack of accredited laboratories for European certification, limited understanding of regulatory frameworks among businesses. Additionally, SMEs, despite showing growth, EBA study says, still struggle with low economic contribution, and their access to EU markets remain challenging. The report calls for accelerating judicial and education reforms to enhance business confidence. Education institutions must work closely with the private sector to align skills development programs with market needs. Meanwhile, according to EBA study, improving economic policies and trade trade infrastructure will be crucial to sustaining Georgia's EU market integration efforts. In conclusion, the findings of the EU Business Climate Report Georgia 2024 paint a complex picture. While economic growth continues, it is overshadowed by political uncertainties, workforce shortages, and trade barriers. To maintain momentum, Georgia must address these structural issues, particularly workforce development, to secure long-term stability and EU market access. EBA's John Breakfield gave more insights to the study in a short interview with the Checkpoints.
We started in 2021 with the first report, with the Business Climate Report. And this is done among around 200 European companies operating in Georgia. It is very important now today to mention that this reporting is done in 2024 before the elections that we have. So we can clearly see in the 3 years that we are publishing that we really see the difference each year what is happening. This year, our report was a bit more specific, linked also to further investigation on the workforce shortages and the skills development, because we all know that's a very important thing. Now, in general, what I can mention, that of course everybody knows, political instability from last year, from 2024, went to number one concern. It went over the exchange rate and over the skills development. So this was number one, is political instability, which is of course affecting a lot European businesses on the ground here in Georgia. We also need to mention there that the key observations, yes, we have a little bit of deterioration on these factors, again, the political stability, inequality workforce, exchange volatilities, but we also had a bit of positive news, strangely, because other factors like access of land, managers crime, theft, business license and permits actually improved a bit, according to our 200 European companies telling that. So there's a nuance there that we have to mention. What else can I tell? The report, please, it is very important that the media, of course, the businesses, governments, everybody in Georgia reads it and don't take just one point as it, read it completely. They are really standing guidance, what are problems, what are the obstacles, what the companies are telling and how we can improve it. So this is very important, this report. We are actually planning also to make a short report in the next couple of months, and this will be between the elections and the time now, because as we all know, a lot of things changed in the last couple of months. And we want to be, as the European Business Association, so correct the sentiment between the European companies in Georgia. The good news is the European companies in Georgia who are already operating here, who know Georgia, who has already workforce here, employments here, they did not leave the country because of political instability. They did not leave yet and they are still here operating. Of course, I remember very well in 2023, when we were celebrating the European candidate status. Everybody knows it's a journey to get the European candidate status. It's not done in 1 year. It's a long-term vision, but the image is there. If you have a candidate status project, then you get the eye of investors. And this doesn't have to be the biggest companies in the world. This can be the small SME companies, which is important for Georgia. And these companies, if they see a good image of a country, first of all, they will see, shall we do an investment? So that is important, which unfortunately we have to tell no. I have a lot of investors who hold their investors on hold because of the political instability. A second one also, as I mentioned, the good news, my European businesses in Georgia did not leave the country yet. However, none of them told from we're going to increase our business also. They're all on a standstill, waiting to see what is happening. I have to convince people from, yes, it's no time to leave the country. Everything will get in order. We'll get this image again. We're going to go back to the European vision. that doing business in Georgia will be the same as doing business in Europe. However, the longer the period it stays, this kind of political instability, the more difficult it gets to convince my European companies not to leave or reduce staff.
More on business in Georgia this week. Natia Taktakishvili will take the lead. Levon Phakadze, vice president of Vissel Group and founder of Biograph, declares that all players in real estate sector should observe the market carefully as there are risks of an immediate crisis. He deeply believes that even the bankruptcy of one company will cause significant fluctuations in the sector. Levon Phakadze notes that the risks are indeed visible. The founder of Biograph also talks about the steps necessary to ensure risks. I think all players, including banks and the state, should watch this sector very carefully. We understand that this industry is the largest contributor to the gross domestic product, and we agree that a crisis can start very quickly. So one or two unsuccessful projects or companies can completely change the real estate market, Levon Phakadze said. According to him, further easing of regulations by the MBG is very important, but banks must remain demanding in order to fully control project progress. It was very pleasant from the state side when we heard last week that the National Bank of Georgia has reduced the requirements for lending to individuals, and if there are more similar steps that will encourage sales, this sector only welcomes such decisions, Levon Phakadze said. Pol Georgia has opened its sixth branch in Tbilisi. Pol Tskhneti hosts the customers since March 1 with a new menu. In addition, the French restaurant plans to expand. As Tea Jijavadze, business development manager of Pol Georgia, told BMDG, the seventh facility will open in City Mall. Our Tskhneti branch is distinguished by the fact that it's located in the nature. In addition, it has different design with partisan elements. An additional 15 people were employed in the new branch. In total, more than 200 people work with us currently. Since March 1, along with the opening of the Tskhneti branch, we have updated the menu. Pol Tskhneti has made many changes to the assortment. We have added new dishes. We offer customers healthy food assortment that allows you to combine pleasure and balanced nutrition. As you know, our restaurant is both a bakery and cafe pastry shop. We offer our customers the highest quality French products, Tea Jijavadze said. According to her, after the expansion in the capital city of Tbilisi, the company is considering development in the regions. As soon as we finish development in Tbilisi, we will definitely go to other cities such as Batumi, said the business development manager of Pol Georgia. According to Tea Jijavadze, the current events certainly had an impact. For a short period, sales dynamics have fallen, but now the number of customers is still growing. Pol is a French brand with a 135-year history. The history of Pol in Georgia began in 2016 with the opening of Abashidze branch. The first outlet village in the South Caucasus region will open on May 29. The plans of the founders of Tbilisi Outlet Village are ambitious, and they say that the main goal of the project is to establish new standards in the field of retail trade. The first phase of Tbilisi Outlet Village will unite 70 brands and 80 gastronomic establishments. A 30-minute drive from Tbilisi, the founders plan to create a regional attraction center in this environment. A lounge will be set up on site. We will have so-called personal shoppers who will give our visitors even more freedom to enjoy a new shopping experience. We are cooperating with company Bene, so we will have shuttles from Freedom Square and other important locations to ensure the transportation of our guests, said Natia Chitaya, director of Tbilisi Outlet Village. Tbilisi Outlet Village team has a plan to develop shopping tourism. The strategic location of outlets should contribute to the growing tourist flows, including from Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Turkey. Part of the ambitious plan, it's to create a regional shopping hub in the country and mark Tbilisi on the global fashion map. Together with Outlet Village, the company actively cooperates with TBC Bank, which has already invested more than 40 million lari in the project. The project organizers and partners are confident that this space will create new opportunities for both consumers and businesses in the country's retail sector.
Lumiers has opened a branch in Istanbul after Madrid. The company's co-founder Emil Kurbanov and the company's business development manager Kwanza Ichkiti spoke about this with BMG TV. Lumiers has been operating on the market since 2018 and offers Czech Tradelnik to its customers. At the moment, the company owns a total of 7 branches in both the local and international market. Lumiers co-founder Emil Kurbanov states that the company began working on export development back in 2023. Last year, it opened its first branch in Madrid, and this year the brand also entered Turkey, namely in Istanbul. We started working on exports in 2023. We are looking for space for our facility for about 10 months. On August 1, we signed an agreement to lease space in Madrid, then began renovation works, and in December 2024, we opened the first branch in Madrid. The opening of the facility in this market has brought quite interesting results. We have received quite good feedback from the residents of Madrid, so we are working in the franchise direction. In particular, unlike Georgia, there are many consulting companies in Madrid that help similar type of businesses take the right steps. Accordingly, at this stage, we are consulting with these companies, Kurbanov says, adding that they will probably be able to sell franchise in Spain from May. The company's business development manager, Kwanza Ichkiti, says that the company currently has 5 branches, but they also want to expand to the regions, especially in Western Georgia. The Italian restaurant Casafiore opened several months ago on Alexandra Chauchavadze Street in the center of Tbilisi. The head of Casafiore, Keti Rohwadze, discussed this with TV program Women's Narrative. Casafiore is the 5th project of Friends for Friends group. The group has been operating in the Georgian market since 2018 and unites outstanding restaurants and bars of various types and concepts throughout Tbilisi, such as Veriko, Kikodze Bar and Breakfast, Hinkali by Veriko, Lazy and Casafiore. Based on the concept, all restaurants have different menus, but they all share high quality. Casafiore is a restaurant with Italian aesthetics. According to Keti Rohwadze, work on the arrangement of the space has been going on for about a year. We worked very hard to achieve this result. We worked on the interior and exterior. We wanted to create an Italian aesthetic in the heart of Tbilisi. A huge human resource was needed to create this space. Everything in handmade painted, which takes time and a lot of human resources. We also had to work on the menu, which took us several months. Keti Rohwadze said, according to her, since the day of its opening, the facility has earned great love from customers, and despite the difficult environmental conditions, the restaurant was fully booked every evening. Rohwadze assumes that demand will increase even more in spring and summer. As for the staff, the tourist facility currently employs 55 people. Irakli Çavlelishvili, founder of Bakery Gemovani, declares that the company is establishing an NGO. The company planned to expand in Western Georgia last year, but due to the lack of resources, it was unable. Now Çavlelishvili thinks that NGO will help to complete this plan. According to him, he will now be able to implement this goal with the funds received from donors. Georgian wheat does not have the strength to generate necessary funds for a promising business because the company mainly imports cheap wheat and the market is accustomed to cheap bread. Accordingly, the desire of business alone is not enough to produce healthy bread made from Georgian wheat. Therefore, we have moved on to looking for other ways and have established a non-governmental organization. With its help, we will implement our plans using resources received from donors, says the founder of Gemovani, and adds that, among other things, seeking funding from the states through the newly created Grants Management Agency is being considered. Gemovani is a bread manufacturer that entered the market in 2015. It produces bread only from Georgian wheat. Sewing enterprise Ajara Textile, located in Bobokhwati, expects positive and growing indicators in 2025. As the company's director, Gea Lominadze, noted in an interview with BMG, Nike and Adidas are the main customers of Ajara Textile. We continue to actively work with them. They are stable customers, says Lominadze, adding that they have no news in terms of new customers yet. We expect to increase production volume in 2025. We already know how much we will be able to sow this year. At this stage, the indicators are quite positive, noted the head of enterprise. As for last year, according to Gia Lominadze, they also ended 2024 with a 10% growth, despite the fact that the main challenge of textile industry is still the shortage of labor force. He notes that there is a positive trend in their company in this regard. According to Lominadze, they regularly pay salaries and bonuses to the employees. Global brands such as Nike, Puma, Adidas, New Balance, Under Armour, and other companies have been cooperating with the largest clothing manufacturer in Georgia, Achara Textile, for many years. The garment factory was founded in 2008. Winery Shumi is working on the infrastructure project and adds services to its own tourist complex. The company's CEO, Akaki Topurishvili, spoke to BMG about this. According to Topurishvili, today the complex spread over 12 hectares, includes territory in 9 locations. Vineyard, the first wine museum in Georgia, a cellar and ethnographic pavilion, guest house, and others. We continue to develop the tourist complex. In 2025, we plan to add conference halls. So far, the complex has offered information tours, a wide selection of tasting packages, restaurant services, mainly in cafes and restaurants located in open spaces, various entertainment masterclasses, as well as very regional service such as planting a rare grape variety in a collective vineyard. Topurishvili said, according to him, in 2025 they also plan to continue the cultivation of Shumi orchards. There are more than 300 varieties of fruit in Shumi orchards. We pay special attention to planting and growing Georgian fruits because today they are being massively replaced by foreign varieties. We are considering investing about 1.5 million lari in 2025, which will include the cultivation of orchards and vineyards, the equipment of enterprise, and the expansion of the tourist complex, Topurishvili said.
BMG TV program Real Estate Prospect held its annual event Gremo in Batumi for representatives of the construction and development sector. The event, which was attended by the majority of companies operating in the regional market of Achara, was organized by BMG and the real estate sales company Prospect. In the event's closing, Real Estate Prospect honored companies operating within the region with a symbolic award, a brick signifying their creation of impactful projects. The award for innovation was presented to Ambassadori Island Batumi, a project that, guided by principles of sustainability, innovation, and harmonious coexistence, is redefining urban living standards in the region. The project emphasizes the use of innovative technologies and eco-friendly solutions, aiming to expand the boundaries of both physical and potential on the seashore. The event was of great importance, providing a platform for dialogue with leading real estate developers on the challenges facing the sector in Georgia in the face of global challenges, as well as on the collaborative steps required to enhance service delivery in Georgia beyond competition. I would like to express my gratitude to Real Estate Prospect and all the participants who took important positions, said Gocha Kamkia, director of Ambassadori Island Batumi.
Andrea, it's my pleasure meeting you.
It's my pleasure as well.
Yeah, finally.
Very nice to meet
I've
you.
heard a lot, but at the same time, I could never imagine that you've been engaged. Well, I can say to Georgia, so many years.
Yes, I would like to say that I'm half Georgian.
You are. 12 years.
Yes, almost. Yes, actually more than 12 years now.
More than, yeah.
Yes, I think it was 2011 that we had our really first project in Georgia, in Tbilisi, was the Ambassador in Tbilisi. So actually,
Amazing one.
our
One of my
story-
favorites.
Yes. It was.
I will never cut this during this interview, but I'm honest.
Oh, thank you.
It's one of the most beautiful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was I tell you, a very incredible experience because first of all, it was our first project, real first project in Georgia. We didn't know anything about Georgia, Georgia culture, Georgia, people. So the very beginning was difficult, you know, as in like in every new country, you need to understand first people, culture, and then try to speak
Maybe
the
that's
work
why.
way.
Maybe that's why this is.
Probably
so
yes, probably yes. And I tell you that at that time I was working also in Azerbaijan, for example.
Okay.
But then I quit Azerbaijan because, and I invest all in Georgia because I really like to work in Georgia for the kind of culture, kind of people, which one way is quite similar to Italian.
And Ambassador Tbilisi is something which is, besides being landmark already.
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah, it is creating some different situation within this area, district. I mean, it's developing around, as it usually happens in infrastructure and architecture.
It was a really experience, very challenging from one side, but on the other side, it gives us a lot in the meaning, in terms of understanding the people, and also to our my personal work, because it was a really strict work together, of course, with the client, with Mr. Buba, and he's a kind of person that it gives you always new challenges, you know, so it helps you to reach the top level. It's very challenging from one side, but on the other side, you can do a very nice job because you are always stimulated.
Yeah, but at the same time, these are those who have vision.
Absolutely. That's
And
why.
that's why they can create landmarks.
Exactly.
Let me say so.
I always say that a nice project itself, in the whole meaning, comes from a good collaboration from a good architect and a good client. If you miss one of those, it's a problem.
Andrea, tell me about your portfolio. I mean, in general, I know it's not so easy to talk about your project, but,
no,
but I think we have a lot to talk.
Yes, I mean, our main studio is based near Milan, in Brescia. Okay. I opened this office with my partner, architect Vismara Marco, in the 2007. And then we grew up a lot. Our first project was in 2010 in Moscow, was a big fitness center at the time. And then from there we started to work also not only in Italy, but also out of Italy, of course, creating new connection. Now the structure is consolidated with the main studio in Brescia. Then we have this huge cooperation in Georgia of many projects. And then we have an office, based office, operative office in Cyprus, where my partner lives there. And he follows all the market of the project in Cyprus. And then I personally follow also some project in island of Crete, in Dubai, so in all Emirates. So all this area is, say, our main project, and of course Italy, because it's our country, and every different reality is different, and it gives us the opportunity to learn a lot, because every project in different areas means different organization, different approach. But always we try to be always in the same professional way, not to deliver to our client just papers or nice project, but also to be able to have a service in a structure to deliver the project up to the end, the construction. So this is for us is a very important aspect.
My father used to be landscape architect.
Oh, very interesting.
It's very interesting. But what I remember from his conversations with me in this regards is that whenever you go, I mean architect, whenever, it's something that this country is delivering some special stimulus, tastes, absolutely different visions. I've never followed my father's background or profession, but at the same time, while I remembered this conversation, Andrea, can you tell me what Georgia has created personally for you 11, 12 years ago, and nowadays you are working on another personal for me landmark project of this country already. Whenever I say that Ambassador Tbilisi is something favorable
Yes, yes.
For Tbilisi, for the district, for the area, fashion, modern, and the old style all together. Now it's something else. What has created Georgia personally for you? Your relations with this group and with the others, 12 or more than 12 years, it's a huge period already.
It's a huge period, and generally, I want to tell you one thing that I really believe in these last years, but mainly in the last years, which we work in different countries.
Okay.
But we believe, and I believe that each country is different from the others, of course. And I don't see anymore the idea of total globalization as a feeling that can be applied everywhere. We need to, and if you see in the story of these days, that globalization is a little bit collapsing, you know. But I believe it's a good thing from one side, because we can keep the good idea of globalization, but on the other hand, we need to protect each particularity of each country.
Some origins.
Origins, exactly. And to merge this aspect in a good way, not just go black or white, you know. Speaking about this project in Georgia, I tell you that this project is such a huge scale project that gives us the opportunity to work to create not just a nice project, but to create a sort of new way of living in a community different from what we see now in Batumi, for example. So to create also building architecture, of course, but also services, way of living to the future customers. And so becomes a landmark, but on the other side, we need to take what is typical of Georgian living and put also there in this very challenging project. Working in very close to Georgian people since so many years give us the possibility to understand very well. Of course, we are not totally 100% Georgian, of course, but we want to put
We're
anyway
quite
our
similar
experience.
to each other,
Yes,
Italians
absolutely.
and Georgians, you know
That's
that.
why we like to work very well with Georgian people, and in particular with the Ambassadori group, because we know each other like, you know, brothers and sisters from
the very beginning.
Yes, so we are quite similar as Italian and Georgian. Our approach to life is to work professionally, but on the other hand, we don't want to forget, you know, the good way of living. You know, a good glass of wine, good food, spend the time together around the table and discussing. So this aspect, which sometimes for us are quite normal for granted, but it's not always like this. And these aspects are common from Italy and Georgia.
Andrea,
So
nobody else but you can deliver and tell me and share it with our viewers and followers about the spirit and about the DNM of the future landmark of Georgia, about another project coming from Ambassadori Group, Batumi Island. Tell me how it was created and what the creators and the authors put there as a part of its DNM. And so,
but I tell you that really when I got in touch of this incredible project, I was really from one side surprised, because it's such a visionary project, because it's not so easy to imagine something similar, you know, generally everywhere, but also in Batumi, you know. So this is part of what I was saying before, that we are already pushed our limits over and over, you know. So this project is absolutely like this. And I tell you that honestly, that at the very beginning, I was thinking it was a joke. Okay, somehow,
you
know.
could never believe that something
exactly.
like this can happen in Batumi.
Exactly, at the very beginning. But then of course I understood that it was reality, and now we are on the process, and we are so really happy that we can collaborate in building this incredible project, and because I think that we can really give together in this project with Ambassadori is something different in the Batumi market, because Batumi is growing so fast.
Indeed.
And probably too fast from one aspect, because all the city is not growing the same services to the people. Everything is not growing the same speed of investments.
Like development, it's
and
not
this
the same
you
in
feel
services.
this
Yeah.
as
It's
a
a
problematic.
difference.
Yes, building this entire new community gives the opportunity to balance this aspect. So it's just not only building residential apartments, villa, but all the services to the human being. Infrastructure. And so it gives the possibility to recreate a new balance inside Batumi. And maybe this can be something that will change also the development of the other part of Batumi, because I think that people nowadays needs quality of living. Can be a different scale, depends from the targets of the client, but generally quality of living is so important.
Don't you agree that such projects are pushing or boosting the way of the living quality, as you have mentioned, to a higher level?
Absolutely, yes. I would
It's
say
a
that
booster. It's a booster of
setting
something.
new levels.
Absolutely.
And this is absolutely a big opportunity for this project, absolutely. And probably it will gives also new trends of developers in Batumi. This I'm pretty sure, absolutely.
Andrea, when country has project implemented like Batumi Island is, what does it mean? How this country looks like? Sometimes when I was following how, all the permission things, project itself, how Gocha and his team were following all the details, I was always thinking that this project might change attitude to the country, entire country itself, and investment climate. Don't you agree with it?
I agree in the terms that being such a very visionary and complicated project at the same time means that in any case you have to build up a big group of collaboration and different mentality to collaborate in this project. You cannot do such a project by yourself and that's it. So it means that a lot of collaboration, a lot of ideas, a lot of mentality has to merge and create something positive. And this is something that breaks the easiest way of investment. Say I have some money, I invest in a classic way because I want just to make money and finish. That's it. So breaks this sort of way of
here is a different story.
Habits, So this is a completely different story. And I think for an architect, this is it's very important because architects are a technical professional, but first of all are creative person, and architect needs this kind of human being aspect in the project, in the work we do.
Ambassadori Island, Batumi, Ambassadori Island, Georgia. While we are talking about some future landmark of this country, give me some similarities from your portfolio, from others' portfolio. What are projects worldwide similar to this project you are implementing here with Ambassadori Group?
I tell you that we have two different experiences. The first experience is very easy but it's very important also because we are doing just two apartments inside the Palm of Dubai, and this gives us an idea of the vision of sort of similarity of the project compared to the island. But the other project, which is different, but in a big scale like this one, is a huge development we are following in the island of Crete. It's a hill that overlooking the beautiful Mediterranean Sea. And we are collaborating this big group of people, and architects, professional, to follow this big investment. It's an investment of $600 billion, huge. And there will be villas, outlets for retail, hotels, marina. So it's very complicated, new roads. So it's the same idea to create a new community.
It's also covered by a company?
Yes, we are doing part of this
Wow.
job in Isle of Crete. And this is an experience very important for us to bring to collaborate a good approach in a project like Ambassador Island, because in this way you need to have a very professional but pragmatic way of working, solving problems, and try to push all the people in the same vision, you know, because sometimes in such a big project it can happen that something go wrong. So, no, it's normal.
Always happens.
So this is important approach that we want to bring in the project.
So it's happening, yeah?
Yes, it's happening, and we are really
It's exciting. It's something
yes.
makes really exciting.
All our architects of my studio are
Yes.
really excited of this because you know, when you work in such a big project, you start as a person, and when you will end up, you will be another person, because in between the sort of experience, relationship, and everything that change how the kind of person you are. That's why it's important to work with people you like, because that's very important.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrea, and good luck. Good luck to you, and good luck to
We will put all our passion.
I'm more than sure of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On March 12, 2025, the Monetary Policy Committee of the National Bank of Georgia decided to keep the monetary policy rate, refinancing rate, unchanged. The monetary policy rate stands at 8%. Annual inflation remains below the target level of 3%. In February 2025, the overall price level increased by 2.4% year-on-year, while core inflation stood at 2%. Inflation for domestically produced goods and services, which tend to be stickier and better reflect long-term inflation expectations, remains aligned with the target level reaching 3% in February. Compared to previous months, the moderate increase in inflation and its convergence toward the target can be attributed on the one hand to the realization of risks in international markets, according to NBG. Specifically, the NBG states the increase in international food commodity prices has been partly passed on to the domestic market, leading to a slight rise in inflation compared to the previous month. On the other hand, NBG states the moderate increase in inflation is related to the fading base effect of the reduction in electricity tariffs. According to NBG, notably based on data from January-February 2025, current dynamics are largely in line with the central scenario assumptions of the NBG's latest forecast. Against the backdrop of increased pressure from international markets, inflation is gradually converging toward the target level and is expected to be close to it in the first half of 2025. Subsequently, partly due to the base effect, inflation will temporarily exceed the target before stabilizing around 3% in the medium term, NBG states. However, economic activity appears stronger than initially expected. This is what NBG says in a statement. According to preliminary data, economic growth in January stood at 11.1%. At this stage, according to the latest estimates from the NBG, economic potential remains high alongside strong aggregate demand, which partially offsets demand pressures on prices. Robust aggregate demand is also supported by credit activity, primarily driven by business loans, which contribute positively to economic potential growth, NBG states. Amid elevated global uncertainty, the Monetary Policy Committee has on one hand considered a high inflation risk scenario where the realization of fundamental factors would require require a higher path for the policy rate compared to the central scenario. Recently, rising global uncertainty has been largely driven by tariff policies in international markets. Such policies highlight signs of economic fragmentation at the international level, intensifying the likelihood of supply chain disruptions and the emergence of a global high inflation environment. On the domestic front, demand-driven price pressures remain a notable concern to the NBG. On the other hand, the Monetary Policy Committee has considered a low inflation risk scenario where the realization of fundamental factors would require a lower trajectory for the monetary policy rate compared to the central scenario. In the wake of global uncertainty and tariff policies, the US dollar index is weakening. Against this backdrop, the appreciated exchange rate will exert downward pressure on headline inflation through importing goods inflation, NBG reports. As a result of macroeconomic analysis and the assessment of the existing risk, the Monetary Policy Committee has considered it's optimal to adopt a cautious approach toward further normalizing the monetary policy rate, keeping it unchanged at 8%. Upcoming decisions on the monetary policy rate will depend on updated macroeconomic forecast scenarios and risk assessments. The NBG says it will use all available instruments to maintain price stability. This means keeping the overall price level increase close to the 3% target over the medium term. The next meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee will be held on May 7, 2025. Some more news in the economy this week in our short overview.
In January 2025, construction cost index decreased by 3.2% compared to the previous month, while it increased by 5.9% compared to January 2024, according to the preliminary data from the National Statistics Office of Georgia. The residential segment index decreased by 2.2% compared to the previous month and increased by 9.3% compared to the same month of the previous year. The non-residential segment index decreased by 9.3% compared to the previous month and by 2% compared to the same month of the previous year. The civil segment index decreased by 2.2% compared to the previous month and increased by 5.4% compared to the same month of the previous year. In January 2025, construction cost index decreased by 3.2% compared to the previous month. The change was mainly due to a 21.3% decrease in average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector. Compared to January 2024, construction cost index increased by 5.9%. The latter was largely caused by the 22.2% increase in average monthly nominal wages of employees in the construction sector and by the 3.6% increase in the prices of construction materials, which contributed 3.47 and 2.28 percentage points to the total index change, respectively. Along with this, the construction cost index posted an 80.85% increase compared to February 2022. The Pension Agency published a report for February 2025, according to which the amount mobilized in the pension fund currently amounts to 6.4 billion lari, of which 1.54 billion lari is accrued interest on pension assets. In addition, the Pension Agency statistics show how many people have already benefited from the accumulated pension. According to the report, since the transition to the new pension system from January 1, 2018 to 2025, a total of 17,085 people have benefited, to whom a total of 70.6 million lari was issued, which made up 4.132,000 lari per beneficiary. In February 2025, 856 people received a funded pension, and the amount issued to them averaged 5,607 lari. An additional 300 children with autism spectrum disorder will receive rehabilitation service through the Tbilisi City Hall program. During a municipal government meeting, Tbilisi Mayor Kaha Kaladze announced that these changes would take effect on April 1. Kaladze emphasized the city's ongoing commitment to supporting children with autism spectrum disorder by regularly updating the program. The latest adjustment aligns with the upcoming World Autism Awareness Day, observed on April 2 annually. The mayor further revealed that the budget for this year's Tbilisi City Hall program has increased to 11 million lari starting in April. 2,400 children and youth will benefit from 20 sessions of specialized therapy provided by multidisciplinary team. The number of service provider institutions has also expanded, with the 11th organization joining the program in January. At the time of program's launch in July 2015, it included only 2 institutions and served 325 children with a budget of 500,000 lari. Since then, the program has grown annually, which increased funding and a larger number of beneficiaries, he stated. In February 2025, Georgia's official international reserve assets decreased by 202 million USD and amounted to 4.23 billion USD. Natia Turnar, president of National Bank of Georgia, noted that the NBG itself did not intervene in the foreign exchange market in January and February. In addition to activities of the National Bank of Georgia, the Georgian government also had an impact on the reserves, since external debt serving was carried out precisely from foreign exchange reserves. According to Treasury Ministry of Finance, from January 1 to March 11, 2025, 359 million lari was spent on serving central government's external debt, which is over 127 million USD. However, in addition to central government, the activities of state-owned companies also have an impact on foreign exchange reserves, and their servicing of external debts could also have an impact on the reserves. Detailed debt serving statistics for this sector are not available at this time. During 2025, the government will spend 2.2 billion lari on serving external debt, which is equivalent to 783 million USD. Georgian wines were tasted within the Wine Warsaw Expo 2025 framework, the largest brewery industry trade fair held on March 11 in Poland. At the seminar organized by People Peer, a contractor company of Georgian National Wine Agency, and Polish Wine Magazine, wines produced by 10 companies were displayed. Wine Warsaw Expo is a unique event dedicated entirely to the wine industry, bringing together professionals, producers, importers, and wine enthusiasts from around the world. Poland is among top 5 exporter countries of Georgian wines. With financial support from National Wine Agency, Georgian wine tasting seminars will be held in Poland for wine professionals, wine traders, and consumers throughout the year. The obligation to obtain a license for tobacco production in Georgia, which came into effect on January 1, 2025, will be postponed until January 1, 2026. The issue of extending the licensing deadline by 9 months has already been initiated in Parliament. In July of last year, Parliament passed a law making tobacco production license activity and imposing certain requirements on tobacco manufacturers. The license fee for tobacco production was set at 50,000 lari. Companies seeking a license were required to establish a specialized laboratory where tobacco products would be tested to ensure compliance with government-defined standards. The initiators of the postponement cite issues related to setting up these laboratories as the main reason for the delay.
And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday. Stay tuned and take care.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.